captive free.
He bore it all that I might live.
In His presence live. He bore it
Jesus
all
bore
that
it
I
all.
might see His
See His shining face. He bore it
Freely
all
bore it all.
that I might
I with Him might
live.
live. I stood
Stood
condemned to die, but Jesus
Freely took my place. He bore it all that I might
in His presence
live.
live. They placed a crown of thorns upon my Savior's head. He bore it
Freely bore it all.
that I might
I
live.
with Him might live. By cruel man with spear His side was pierced and bled. He bore it all that I might
In His presence
live.
live. He bore it
Jesus
all
bore
that
it
I
all.
might see His
See His shining face. He bore it
Freely bore it all.
all that I might
I with Him might
live.
live. I stood
Stood condemned to die,
but Jesus
Freely took my place. He bore it all that I might
in His presence
live.
live. Up Calvary's hill in shame the blessed Savior trod. He bore it
Freely bore it all.
that I might
I
live.
with Him might live.
Between two thieves they crucified the Son of God.
He bore it all that I might
In His presence
live.
live. He bore it
Jesus
all
bore
that
it
I
all.
might see His
See His shining face. He bore it
Freely bore it all.
all that I might
I with Him might
live.
live. I stood
condemned to die,
but Jesus
Freely took my place. He bore it all that I might
in His presence live. Jesus, You're the sweetest name of all. Jesus, You always hear me when I call. Oh Jesus, You pick me up each time I fall. You're the sweetest name of all. Jesus, how I love to praise Your name. Jesus, You're still the first, the last, the same. Oh Jesus, You died and took away my shame. You're the sweetest name of all. Jesus, You're the soon and coming King. Jesus, we need the love that You can bring. Oh Jesus, we lift our voices up and sing. You're the sweetest name of all. Our God is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome God. This world is not my home, I'm just a passing through. My treasures are laid up somewhere beyond the blue. The angels beckon me from heaven's open door, and I can't feel at home in this world anymore. Oh Lord, You know I have no friend like You. If heaven's not my home, then Lord, what will I do? The angels beckon me from heaven's open door, and I can't feel at home in this world anymore. They're all expecting me, and that's one thing I know. My Savior pardoned me, and now I onward go. I know He'll take me through, though I am weak and poor, and I can't feel at home in this world anymore. Oh Lord, You know I have no friend like You. If heaven's not my home, then Lord, what will I do? The angels beckon me from heaven's open door, and I can't feel at home in this world anymore. Just up in glory land will live eternally. The saints on every hand are shouting victory. Their song of sweetest praise drifts back from heaven's shore, and I can't feel at home in this world anymore. Oh Lord, you know I have no friend like you. If heaven's not my home, then Lord, what will I do? The angels beckon me from heaven's open door, and I can't feel at home in this world anymore. Tempted and tried, we're oft made to wonder why it should be thus all the day long, while there are others living about us, never molested, going the wrong, farther.
All right. Turn over to Judges chapter 8. We'll finish the story of Gideon. Let me ask you. Adversity or prosperity? Which is easier to handle, you think? What do you think? Trick question? Adversity? Prosperity? What do you think?
Prosperity.
Someone says prosperity. Depends on the person. Okay. What's been sometimes you're having experiences, either personally or seen in others? What?
Adversity for me.
Adversity. Okay.
I've seen a family that, this is prosperity, they give inheritance,
Okay.
and within a year, 3 of them was in big trouble.
Okay.
One of them handled it
Yeah.
out of 4.
Okay.
One out of 4.
Yeah. Dolores?
I guess it depends on how prosperous.
Right.
Because Proverbs tells us give me just enough.
Just enough?
I won't steal.
Yeah.
But not too much.
Yeah.
Lean on myself.
Of course, what are the challenges with adversity? I mean, it goes without saying that what can it do to, and we're talking about primarily, obviously, a person's spiritual walk with God. That's what we're primarily talking about in the more focused. But I mean, adversity can do what spiritually? It can strengthen. What's the negative, though, what we're talking about?
It can undermine your confidence.
Okay, undermine your confidence in God. Where's God? Yeah. Can cause us to just be discouraged and despair and to give up and to be crushed under the weight of that adversity or trouble or challenges, right?
Prosperity can also,
Okay, so there's the other. What happens on the other side of that with prosperity?
I can do it myself.
When we're having adversity, do we have trouble seeking God when we have adversity? It usually comes pretty easy, doesn't it? Do we have trouble praying to God when we're in need? Usually we don't, do we? Prosperity, success, health, wealth, everything's wonderful. Career is thriving. Kids are well. I'm on top of the world. I'm achieving. Where's the challenge there?
Too many people don't give the glory to God when they're like that, though.
Right there. Bingo. Ding, 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 winner. She gets the chicken dinner.
Chicken dinner. I like chicken.
The glory to God is not given, and it's given pointed in ourselves. And we call that what? Pride. Pride. The downfall, right? Stupidity. Pride will do that. I wish I had a happy ending to tell you about Gideon. I wish I had that story. But we don't really have it. At least my interpretation is not going to be positive. There's some debate, but not real debate. Most scholars are pretty unanimous. Not a pretty ending. Is it as bad as others we could read in the Bible? No. He doesn't go out and hang himself like Judas. He's not rejected like Saul and go into madness and end up, that's not the standard. That's right. And especially where he went, where he ended up, I mean, where he got elevated and what we saw in chapter 7. Yeah. I mean, that's right. I'm the least of the tribe, my family. I'm the smallest in my own family. And he tested, asked God for a test. God waited, remember, and was patient and allowed that nonsense to happen. And Gideon strengthened himself. His faith was resolved. Now the Lord will give us the victory. We have the whole, chapter 7. We're going to take on the Midianites who are crushing them for 7 years, taking everything in the land. And finally, we've got an army of 32,000 up against 120,000. The odds are kind of stacked against us, but God says what? 32,000 is what? It's too many. Everybody who's afraid, go home. Right? And get it to 22,000, do that. I'm surprised it was only 22,000. So they're down to 10,000, and God says that's too many. And then you have everybody who laps, and and the whole point is, who's going to get the glory? God's making it so overwhelmingly that it's 120,000 against 300. Come on now, that's ridiculous. It all goes to God, and it works. Gideon's the most unusual. I don't know in the Bible if there's a more unusual. I think it goes here in the walls of Jericho. You can go back and forth. The most unusual war strategy, right? We're not going to have weapons initially. We're going to have trumpets and torches and jars. The walls of Jericho, we're going to march around and shout. And it's all to show what? Even says, and then of course when the people in the camp, the Midianites, it says that God caused them to turn on each other. And so chapter 7 ends. They pursue them. Remember, chapter 7 ends with some of the people do flee. So, and we'll come back to them in a minute. A couple of the military leaders do end up fleeing. Zeba and Zalmunna are going to be the two leaders that they're going to go after. But everything is looking great. Everything's looking wonderful here. Gideon leading the people. But remember the cycles we've talked about? The faithfulness, and then they are successful, and then they forget God and go into idolatry, and then God sends the enemies to oppress them. They cry out. God raises up these military leaders, these judges. We're kind of here. We've been kind of here in the middle. Well, not exactly the middle, but where Gideon is from. The territory is going to move over here to the eastern side of the Sea of Galilee is where we're going to see here. This valley that they're going to have that big success is in the Jezreel Valley. But now the Midianites are going to be scattered, and they're going to flee to the east side of the Jordan, of the Sea of Galilee. And this is where we're going to be at. Penel, we're going to mention that. Mizpah, Jogbeheth is going to be mentioned in here. So some of these cities over here is where the Midianite armies are going to kind of scatter, and they're going to go. Gideon's on hot pursuit. He's after them to wipe them out, and that's when the problems are going to, I think are going to happen with Gideon. And so maybe not as obvious. I mean, it will be at the end, I think, but it's not as bad as we see other stories as we sometimes might compare. But it still, I don't think, is a good ending. Now, look at verse 1 of chapter 8. Ephraimites asked Gideon, "Why have you treated us like this? Why didn't you call us when you went to fight Midian?" And they challenged him vigorously. Why are they upset? Remember, go back to the story of Deborah. Remember, what did she tell Barak? Glory's going to go to a woman. Yeah, you're not going to be no mighty, celebrated. It's going to go to a woman. Jael, remember? And her tent peg, right? What do you have in your hand? That's what she knew how to use. She was out there in them deserts. And so they want the glory. That's going to be the problem. Gideon is in a tough spot here because Ephraim historians believe was possibly the richest of the 12 tribes as far as resources. Matter of fact, he even mentions, look how he mentions that in verse 2. He tries to kind of de-escalate. You know what de-escalate means? It means when people are upset and tempers and emotions, you bring it down. Look how Gideon does that. What have I accomplished compared to you? Aren't the gleanings of Ephraim's grapes better than the full grape of harvest of Abiezer? God gave Oreb and Zeb, the Midianite leaders, into your hands. What was I able to do compared to you? At this, their resentment against him subsided. So he kind of cools their jets a little bit and says, "Hey, you guys are still awesome. You guys are still, wonderful. How do we, we don't compare to you." Their ego, yes, he definitely is doing that here. And so he acknowledges, kind of what they've done here, and says that what you've done just as better. You're much better in what you've accomplished. And so then beginning in verse 4, Gideon and his 300 men, exhausted, kept up the pursuit. So they're after these two kings, these two leaders, Zebah and Zalmunna. And so they're after them, and they came to the Jordan and crossed it. So we're on the east side. Let's look at our map again. We're going to cross over in the east territory. And they're going to be pursuing them here in this area. And they came to the men of Succoth. "Give my troops some bread. They are worn out. I am still pursuing Zebah and Zalmunna, the kings of Midian." But the officials of Succoth said, "Do you already have the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna in your possession? Why should we give bread to your troops?" Then Gideon replied, "Just for that." Now here's where we start to see it unravel as well with Gideon. "Just for that, when the Lord has given Zebah and Zalmunna into my hand, I will tear your flesh with desert thorns and briars." From there he went up to Peniel and made the same request of them. But they answered as the men of Succoth had. So he said to the men of Peniel, "When I return in triumph," he's going to get the Lord a few times in this chapter, but it's very rare. Now it's me, my vengeance. "I will tear down this tower." And so he, they're refusing for a couple of reasons. One, from a practical side, what if the Midianites are able to rally and defeat Gideon? What they're doing is they're hedging their bets a little bit. What do you do when you hedge sorry about that analogy, but you put a little money over here, you put a little money over here, so what?
So if one fails, the other way.
That's right, I can win either way, right? It's been a famine for 7 years. They've been devastated. They're like, hey, we don't have the bread to give you. But really what we're going to see, and this is the spoiler alert, we'll come back to it. Gideon is he's acting like a king, and that's going to be the big problem here in this whole story we're going to see. And so anyway, they're not right, but they should share with their fellow Israelites who are driving out, killing these enemies. But Gideon it's starting to come off the rails here a little bit. We'll come back to this, but so pick up there in verse where we leave off there in verse 10. Yeah, sorry. Now Zebah and Zalmunna were in Kakor with the force of about 15,000. So they started with 120,000. We're down to 15,000. So it's still 15,000 against 300. All that were left of the armies of the eastern peoples, 120,000 swordmen had fallen. Gideon went up by the route of the nomads east of Nobah and Jogbeth and attacked the unsuspecting army. Zebah and Zalmunna, the two kings of Midian, fled, but he pursued them and captured them, routing their entire army. Gideon, son of Joash, then returned from the battle by the pass of Heres. And he caught a young man of Succoth and questioned him. And the young man wrote down for him the names of the 77 officials of Succoth, the elders of the town. Then Gideon came and said to the men of Succoth, here are Zebah and Zalmunna, about whom you taunted me by saying, do you already have the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna into your possession? Why should we give bread to your exhausted men? He took the elders of that town and taught the men of Succoth a lesson by punishing them. The word here is very harsh in the Hebrew. It is implied that he possibly beat them to an inch of their life, and many Hebrew scholars interpret this that he probably killed them as well. He whipped them so bad. By the way, the Romans, of course, would perfect a scourging. Historians would say that a lot of the men crucified actually never made it to the cross because they were killed in the scourging. And so that's likely what's happened here as well. He's going to whip these men basically to their death. And so with the desert thorns and briars, everybody been with the switch? Ever been a briar patch? Huh? It could do some damage. And so he also pulled down the Tower of Peniel. This would be one of their defense towers. And he killed the men in the town. He goes on a vengeance spree. Now, what you'll find absent in any of this chapter is God directing any of this. And that starts to become a problem for Gideon, I think. Then he asked Zebah and Zalmunna, what kind of men did you kill at Tabor? Men like you, they answered, each one with the bearing of a prince. And so Gideon then replied, those are my brothers, the sons of my mother. As surely as the Lord lives, if you had spared their lives, I would not kill you. And so turning to Jether, his oldest son, he said, kill him. But Jether did not draw his sword because he was only a boy and was afraid. Zebah and Zalmunna said, come do it yourself, as is the man, so as his strength. So Gideon stepped forward and killed them and took the ornaments off their camel's neck. And so we see that here. Let's keep reading here so we get the full picture. Let's keep reading. The Israelites said to Gideon, rule over us, you, your son, your grandson, because you've saved us from the hand of Midian. But Gideon told them, I will not rule over you, nor will my son rule over you. The Lord will rule over you. You think, well, that starting to sound good, Robert. Yeah. And he said, I do have one request. This is going to be a problem. That each of you give me an earring from your share of the plunder. It was the custom of the Ishmaelites to wear gold earrings. They answered, we'll be glad to give them. So they spread out a garment and each of them threw a ring from his plunder onto it. The weight of the gold rings he asked for came to 1,700 shekels, about 43 pounds they estimate, not counting the ornaments, the pendants and the purple ornaments worn by the kings of Midian, or the chains that were on their camels' necks. Gideon made the gold into an ephod, which he placed in Orpah, his town. All Israel prostituted themselves by worshiping it there. And it became a snare to Gideon and his family.
So is that a false idol or something?
Yeah, I think it's the precursor. We skip down to the end of the chapter here, and we see that after Gideon died, verse 33, no sooner than he died, the Israelites prostrated themselves. So what the interpretation by scholars is this idea that they prostituted themselves. Either they are participating in some sort of, idol worship, or they're committing some of the sexual sins that would be in the land of Canaan that when they took the land. And so either way, it's not good what they're doing, and what Gideon is doing.
Wasn't an ephod like a vest?
Okay, so let's get into that. The ephod was commanded in the law of Moses. Who was to wear that? The priest, the one who represents God to the people. So Gideon says, no, I don't want to be king. Only God will rule over you. But he starts acting like a what? A king. You're going to give me the gold from the plunder? Even his own son, look at, keep what the text says here. Verse 28, thus Midian was subdued before the Israelites, and they did not raise its head again. During Gideon's lifetime, the land had peace. Jerubbaal, that's Gideon, son of Joash, went back home to live. He had 70 sons of his own. He had many wives. His concubines who lived in Shechem also bore him a son, whom he named Abimelech. And this name means, interesting enough, son of a king. I don't want to be king, only God's king, but I'm going to name my son king. I don't want to be king, but I want the plunder. I don't want to be king, but give me the crops from your land. I don't want to be king, but I would like for you to make an ephod that I want. And notice, where does he set it up at? Did you see the text is very specific there? Did you catch that?
Placed in
Orpah. Where his what? His hometown. We're going to place this thing right here in my town, not Shechem. Shechem was where the tabernacle was at. See, they don't have the temple yet. They have the tabernacle. The tabernacle is in Shechem. That's where you worship. The ephod goes on the priest, the spiritual leader for the people. Gideon says, I want one of those. And we're going to place that in my town. My town. I'm the leader. What's going on with Gideon likely? Probably getting a big head. He's probably losing sight. Because in all of this, who do we see what name do we not see coming out of his mouth? God. And so it's, is he going to bring peace to the land during his time? Yes. But he puts in motion things that are going to undo everything, because it says, again, verse 33, no sooner than he died, they go back and they prostituted themselves, because again, when you go back and read it, when they make this ephod, it says that they played the harlot with it. He contributes to their spiritual demise with this vest, golden vest here, and so he as soon as he dies, they become unfaithful. They participate in the rituals that got the Canaanites kicked out. He put this in his own town, not in Shechem, where worship could be to God. He starts out, I'm the least of the tribes of Israel. My family is the least. I'm the least in my own family. And now he's taking on, I want to be the spiritual leader for you. God speaks through me. God does wonderful things through me. Come to my place. Come to my town. Worship here. He starts low, but I'm afraid Gideon ends exalted. And yeah, that's right. God would often do that. God would often let kings and rulers sometimes, live out their years. But the seed, the reaping and sowing will come, right? Because what he has done is going to contribute to what's it say? As soon as he dies, the people just crank it up a notch. And they fall back very quickly into idol worship. And so, again, even his own son's name means son of the king. I don't want to be your king. No, no, no. The Lord's going to rule over you, but I have a son, and he's the son of the king. That's what I named him. I don't want to rule over you, but I'd like everybody to give me some of your plunder, and I'd like to make an ephod. I'd like to set up my hometown. It's not good. And God is nowhere here in Gideon's. He even takes social justice in his own hands. These men were wrong. They deserved to be punished. But his reaction seems to be extreme. His reaction seems to be vengeful. There's no instruction here from God to do any of this. And so a couple of lessons here. As we see here at the end, it's easy to start down a path that robs the glory to God. How does that look? What does that look like for us maybe? We don't have ephods and set up in our hometown, and we don't ask the things that Gideon asked. But how does that happen sometimes? We have blessings. Okay. How can we rob God of the glory? How can we rob God of the glory? What can happen to us that happened to Gideon? Stop praying. Okay.
Because if he would have just to that first count, if he would have just asked for the bread for his men, they may have even given it to him, but he demanded it.
Yeah. What else? How can this happen with us? Okay. Forsake worship. Right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And remember what Paul said? I am what I am, all by the grace of God. Was Paul in his early years as a Pharisee, was he prideful? Was he boastful? Remember what he talks about? Was he vengeful? Was he... He thought he was doing it, but the fact is, he says he wasn't. It wasn't come from a good place, though. As far as in his heart, he thought he was doing right, but he was still boastful. He was still arrogant. He was still full of himself, so to speak. He hadn't died to himself yet, and then when he does, obviously become a Christian and his life has changed. He later writes and makes those statements. It's by the grace of God. It's all the grace of God. Isn't that another way of saying everything that I do and accomplish and achieve, it all points back to who? Does it point back to me? No. It always goes where? To God. And that's a problem for man. I like what Run Ryder describes here. I wanted to read from... He gives this description here in, I wrote down this quote. Ralph Davis in his commentary talks about we all struggle with this. He says, it is ever our danger that after being used of God in some way, we mouth humility but practice pride. You ever seen that? We mouth humility, but we really are practicing pride. It's easy to do that. We may know of occasions of the Spirit's power, yet lack the Spirit's wisdom. And I think he's right there. It's easy to fall into that if we're not careful. And I think that's what we see here in Gideon's example. There's no glory of God in Gideon here at the end. It's the glory of Gideon. And the things that he does ends up hurting God's people because of what he does at the end of his life with this ephod and setting it up in his hometown and the people prostituting themselves before it. And as soon as he's dead, the people become unfaithful because he hasn't led them properly. He is, he's lost sight of God, I think. Now, did he go out again? And did he himself commit the idolatry? Did he go out no, he's not as wicked as we might see some of the other kings that we read about later on when they have the kings. We don't read that, but we read enough here that's not good. And another thing here, beware of the deceptive nature of power and prosperity. We've talked about that. I think for a lot of people, adversity is maybe a challenge that's tough. But I also think prosperity can be just as tough and can be just as deceptive and lure us away from God. And of course, what is the irony? What did God tell them over and over again? When you get into the land, I don't want you to forget what? All these vineyards and the grapes and the land flowing with milk and honey and all this. He says, don't forget what? God gave that to you. You didn't work to, you had to be obedient and do what I asked, but it's like, I did this for you. And isn't that a big problem? We forget God. And we put ourselves in the spotlight. And we give God some of the credit, and then we give ourselves the credit. And that's a problem here. Pride, ambition, the allurement of power and prosperity can blind us. And it doesn't have to be a lot of great wealth and riches, but the pride and arrogance can turn us away from the humility of being a Christian. And I think you see that. And then I think we also see being right versus rightly responding right. The people were wrong in not giving bread to Gideon and his troops. But it seems to be what Gideon does is take a vengeful action in doing this. That seems to be a tough a response that is not. And I think that's also a problem when we've been wronged. We have to be careful that we remember vengeance is mine. Now, the Lord may use us, and He may use people to bring about punishment, but there's a big difference between that and personal, retaliation to kind of avenge ourselves and instead of God. And so I think that's a challenge here. What else do you see? Anything that you see with Gideon as we kind of close his life out? And he starts out low. God exalts him and raises him up and uses him mightily. And then here at the tail end of his life, it kind of, after all the victory and the smoke clears, he kind of makes himself a little bit of the spotlight. Anything you take away from this or things you see here? Or yes?
Why does it, when they break all the jars and stuff, why do they say a sword for the Lord and for Gideon?
Well, Gideon's their leader. And that's always the challenge. God raises up leaders. God wants people to be followed, good leaders. But it's just always a fine line between, well, who's really doing this? Is it God or Gideon? And the people, it's easy to lose sight of it's God, not Gideon. And so, he's certainly leading them, and he's, worthy of being followed at this point. But yeah, maybe there's some seeds there. But anything else you think about with Gideon here and his story, or things you take away, or questions you have as we kind of put a bow on his story?
Definitely no Joshua.
Yeah, no Joshua. But again, he's mentioned in Hebrews, right? Some of the people in Hebrews, you go, they're head scratchers. God uses broken, flawed people. And so, again, we're not, because the Bible will often record these stories in the narrative, and everything they do it's not to be read as though God endorses everything that they do. And so, yes, Gideon's actions, what God did through Gideon, is mentioned in Hebrews 11. And so we're not making an eternal judgment on Gideon's soul and anything like that, but we're saying his story doesn't end in the best light. It's kind of like Jonah, right? I mean, how does it end with Jonah? Well, he's pouting at the end, upset with God, And so, yeah, Kathy?
But don't you think the reason for that is for us to see that even when we do things wrong, God can still use us?
Yeah, absolutely. The takeaway from all of this, without getting bogged down in each individual case, is that look what God's able to do through broken, flawed, imperfect vessels. It's just unfortunate that at the end of Gideon's life, we see him doing things that seem to take people away from God. Whether that was his full intention or not, I don't think it was, but it certainly results in his bad decisions.
You see that in Solomon's life, you would think,
Yeah.
coming to the end of your life, knowing you're going to meet God and be judged, you would be more diligent to follow and obey Him.
Yeah.
And it seems to go the opposite.
It often does. Again, prosperity can be a challenge for us. It really can. And because we can easily forget God. And, I had that one time with an elder in a church years ago. And it kept, I've been an elder. I've been here. I've done this. And I finally said, you've said I about 10 times. Boy, he got all, I was 30 years old. So I probably shouldn't have said that. But I was like, it's all I. Because it was like, we're not going to do this. I've been here and we've done this. And I in this church and our. And I was like, you've said I about 10 times in this discussion. And the other elders were like, oh, Robert, why'd you say that? And I just said, look, I was kind of saying it's not about you. It's not about you. It's about God and what's best for this church. And but it's easy even for good men and women to get sucked into that kind of that, well, look what I have done. Look what I am deserving of. And, and I've seen that with people throw that out there like, I've been in this church for 40 years. And they can say that in a positive way, like, I've been here for 40 years. I've been up and down. I've seen the good, everything in between. Or sometimes it can be used like, look, I've got seniority in this church. You ever seen that used like that?
Oh, I've definitely seen that one.
Matt, yeah. I've been here longer than you've ever been and ever known, so what I say really should have more. And again, we're not talking about wisdom and those who have wisdom, but again, that's right. Good people can get sucked into this. It is easy to forget God and put ourselves at the forefront. And so it's all the glory of God. Whatever we do in word or deed, do all in the name of the Lord. Do all for the glory of God.
Hey, Prater,
And-
the elder's got his hand
Oh, go ahead, Bill.
The beauty about the Bible is it teaches us. I mean,
Yeah.
the writers could have glossed over all of this.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we get to see Gideon as we are.
As we are. That's right.
Or Jonah, or Peter,
Right.
or Paul. They are, like I said, they're all flawed men. And the nice thing is we get to use their flaws to make it help us not be that.
Learn from that. Yes. That's right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Gideon did great things.
Absolutely.
God became
Yeah, kind of wheels kind of came off a little bit at the end there, and it's easy for that to happen, no matter who we are. Yeah, Kevin. Yeah, I know. It does. And I don't know if any of us have a good answer to that. We've seen that in churches and families and businesses outside of a spiritual context, but you've seen it in other organizations or groups. But yeah,
Sometimes it's because someone wanting control is more important than teaching.
yeah, maybe, yeah. It is a scary thing to think about how quickly it falls off sometimes, and maybe, I don't know, maybe it's, I'll think of a lot, do you think sometimes it's just, we just take it for granted that we're always going to have faith here. We're always going to be strong. We're always going to have good elders. This church will always have, I just think sometimes, do you think we just take things for granted and we just kind of go through the motions of worship and Sunday to Sunday and year after year, and then next thing you know, we haven't done the what? The hard work, which is what Kevin says, which is always what? Teaching and passing down the next generation. And we kind of set up shop and we just kind of, yeah, Matt?
I mean, that's one of the dangers of community. If you don't truly can contemplate on what that means, it becomes just a ritual.
Yeah.
I mean, we know a 1.2 billion people organization that they just kind of go through the rites.
Yeah.
They have their chants and they do what their doctrine teaches, but they don't really understand. A chunk of them don't really understand what they're doing.
Yeah, and all religion, we're all susceptible to that, and I think that's our challenge. And so I think making this personal and real for us, and to learn from Gideon, and that's what it's written for. These things were written, Paul says, for our what? Learning. That we would learn from this. And so as Bill said, let's learn from Gideon, the good and the not so good here, unfortunately, a little bit at the end of his life. So, like I said, I wish I had a happy ending to this and just tie it with a bow and just there you go, off you go. But life's not that way. Life is messy. And that's probably what God is showing us too, that he works through the mess. All right. Yeah, so I'm sorry, Jeanette. Annette, I'm sorry, yeah, Annette. Sorry.
That's fine, but what I'm thinking about is sometimes we discount people that maybe have something that God has planned for them.
Okay.
But we discount it because of where they are in their life.
Uh-huh.
And so
Yeah.
God can work through anybody.
Yep. That's right. He really can. And that's sometimes hard when you're in a position where maybe they're more lower than you, or they haven't been long enough, or they haven't been, but yet God often works through the lowliest of, and Gideon came from that what? The low. God raised him, and then at the end he kind of forgets that. And we got to remember that. All right, good stuff. We will pick up there next time. All righty. See y'all.